It was the midnight hour, that Valentine's night, when my fiancé, Jesse, who had just proposed that night over dinner, woke me up with a sense of urgency. "Erica, wake up," he quietly insisted, gently shaking me. "I'm awake. What's going on?" I responded. Jesse gestured for silence, placing his finger over his lips. The car alarm went off, and I believe I saw someone moving around outside the house, he whispered. Suddenly, the sound of a broken window on the lower level startled us. I looked at Jesse, my expression filled with concern. Jesse mentioned that he was going to check it out, but I couldn't bear the idea of him venturing downstairs alone. "Oh my gosh, our phones!" I exclaimed, as I realized we had both left our phones on the coffee table downstairs. Jesse acknowledged my worry with a slight nod and grabbed a sharp statue as a makeshift self-defense weapon, as it was the only thing readily available. Jesse turned the handle on the door leading to the darkened hallway outside. We chose to keep our lights off to prevent giving away our presence. As we began to cautiously make our way out of the room, the ringtone of Jesse's phone abruptly pierced the silence. "Someone's calling you," I whispered, staying in close proximity to him. Who would be calling this late? He pondered aloud. We continued our slow descent down the stairs, the call persisting in the background. My grip on Jesse remained tight as my fear continued to escalate. I made an effort to tread as quietly as possible with each step. "I'm freaking out," I confessed in a hushed tone. Just a moment later, the call abruptly ended, plunging us into a brief silence. Then, the nearby room just steps below reverberated with the noise of swift running, and mere seconds later, a door slammed shut with a resounding force. Driven by a surge of adrenaline, Jesse raced in the direction of the noise and shouted for the person to reveal themselves. At the same time, he rushed to the kitchen to acquire a more effective weapon. I also grabbed a knife. Jesse rushed to the light switch, turning it on. We ventured into the living room and quickly realized that both our phones were no longer in their original spots. It seemed that the intruder had confiscated them. "We must go to the neighbors," Jesse urged. I directed my gaze towards the bathroom door, the origin of the previous slamming noise. Taking measured steps, I tiptoed towards it, straining my ears to catch any potential sounds. "I think they might be trying to open the window," I whispered. Startling both Jesse and myself, a loud knock suddenly echoed on the front door. Our attention swiftly shifted. "Hello?" a voice called out from the other side. Jesse headed towards the door, peeking outside as he approached. "I think it's our neighbor," he suggested. As Jesse approached the door to open it, my attention was drawn to something quite out of the ordinary. "Jesse, where did those flowers and chocolates come from?" I inquired, pointing toward the couch where they were presented. Jesse glanced over with a look of concern but proceeded to slowly open the door to speak with the neighbor and find out what he wanted. He informed us that he had spotted someone skulking around our house. I quickly asked him to dial 911, a request he promptly fulfilled. The three of us walked over to our neighbor's place while awaiting the arrival of the authorities. The police conducted a brief sweep of both the area and our house, with us waiting outside. They determined it was probably an attempted robbery, and the intruder had managed to escape. To provide us with a sense of security, they stationed a squad car outside the residence for the night. Before we retired to sleep, I brought up the subject of the flowers and chocolates once more, wondering why Jesse would be getting them. After all, this was primarily his living space, and I had only been here several times. Our engagement had taken place just a few months after we had met, so I found myself rapidly learning new things about him. He went on to clarify that he had ended his engagement with his ex-fiancée about a year ago, which was something I was already aware of. However, the following revelation was entirely new to me. Apparently, she had a diagnosed mental illness, and when she was off her medication, her behavior became quite erratic. So basically, she was insane. Jesse suspected that she might be behind the recent events. speculating that she might be feeling especially vulnerable given that it's Valentine's Day. As Jessie was busy organizing the living room, I ascended the stairs to our bedroom. After settling onto the bed and stretching in an attempt to soothe myself, I grappled with the overwhelming weight of the night and the swirling mix of emotions. My attention shifted to the new ring that now adorned my finger, marking this as a truly unforgettable first night of an engagement. As I fidgeted with the ring, a creak echoed from the closet within the room. Instantly, goosebumps prickled on my skin, and my hair stood on end. I shifted my eyes towards the closet. My breath held in, and then I perceived what seemed like someone breathing from within. I listened closer. It was definitely someone breathing. "Jessie?" I exclaimed as I quickly arose from the bed. Right then, I witnessed the closet door swing open, and to my absolute terror, a woman emerged, brandishing a knife. She screamed, "Give me my ring!" Just as our eyes locked, I sprinted to the door, slamming it shut just in the nick of time to prevent her from reaching me. She pounded furiously on the door as I pressed my back against it to hold it closed. "Jessie!" I cried out once more as I heard his footsteps approaching in my direction. "What's happening?" Jessie questioned as he appeared downstairs. I shouted for him to alert the officer outside. The intense banging of the woman's frantic yelling from the other side of the door came to a sudden halt, leading me to believe she was devising an escape plan. I began to hear thumping noises coming from the window inside the room, indicating her attempts to break through. Two officers quickly ran their way through the entry door and up the stairs. I moved away from the door to allow them to do their job. They shouted their presence while approaching the door. I told them as they approached, I heard her trying to break the window on the opposite side of the room. One officer nodded as the other opened the door. The sound of the woman throwing items at the window persisted, and it finally shattered. The officers had their firearms out, directed at her, and were ordering her not to move while instructing her to raise her hands. Though my view inside was limited, I caught a glimpse of her turning around, wearing a disturbingly evil expression as she made eye contact with me while raising her arms in the air. As her arms ascended, she released the knife from her grip, and it fell to the carpeted floor in front of her. Afterward, she turned around and placed her hands behind her back as the police handcuffed her. Jessie climbed the stairs to offer me support and assess the situation. The officers then escorted the woman out of the room, and our eyes met once more. Jessie kept his gaze lowered the entire time, but it was clear that he had recognized her as his ex-fiancée. After that night, Jessie went out and purchased a firearm which we keep in close proximity now in case of any future encounters. That was based on my request. Though Jessie's ex was seeing some time behind bars, I was worried one day she may try to attack us again. I get especially guarded now on Valentine's Day.